Now at 9, police in Neosho, Missouri investigate a possible murder-suicide. Plus, 3 people are killed in a school shooting in St. Louis. And details on a proposed amendment in Missouri that could change how the National Guard operates.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Dow Quick. We finally had some rain throughout the area, and there's more to come. Let's go to Doug Heddy for our first look at the weather.
Yeah, we finally got a nice, heavy, widespread rain across the region, which we needed so badly. And it looks like at least we're going to put a tiny dent into the drought. Prior to the rain, 74, we're pretty much at our low. At the airport in Joplin, there's been about 1.5 inches of rain, which is good, 1.64 for the month, 1.83. But some areas have picked up 3.5 inches of rain throughout the daytime hours today. I'd say on average 1 to 3 inches. You can see this heaviest batch now pushing off toward the east. It's drying out on the Kansas and the Oklahoma side for now. But back to the southwest, here's our next band building just to the west of Oklahoma City. This is going to start to push in mainly after midnight for us tonight. So more rain in the forecast. It's going to be a wet start on your Tuesday. I'm going to break that down for you here in just a bit.
The Neosho Police Department's investigating after 2 people were found dead inside their home. Police received reports of a dead man and woman at the 1000 block of Stratford Place. When they arrived, they found 87-year-old Charles Barnett and 78-year-old Donna Barnett both dead and found a gun. They say Charles Barnett likely killed his wife and then himself. A man who was set to stand trial for the murder of his wife in northeastern Oklahoma today instead changed his plea to guilty. John Hackathorn shot his 60-year-old wife, Mary Hackathorn, 4 times at their home in Delaware County in November of 2020. Court documents say the two had been arguing over their ranch property. A judge today sentenced Hackathorn to life in prison for first-degree murder. Southwest Missouri woman who was bonded out on a murder charge and fled is now back in custody. Authorities say 49-year-old Dawn Wynn was arrested for the suspected shooting of her husband Harold Wynn back in November of last year. She was given a reduced bond of $100,000 surety, which means she paid 10% of it. They say she was out on bond when she disappeared after saying she was suicidal. But a warrant was issued which revoked her bond. She was found in Indiana, where U.S. Marshals took her back into custody. Authorities released the name of a pedestrian killed in a Saturday morning crash in Joplin. They say 24-year-old Andrew Dodson of rural Joplin was struck by a car on Main Street near the campus of Ozark Christian College. During the investigation, a motorcycle was found in the area of Zora Street and Main Street. That motorcycle belonged to Dodson. Investigators believe he had previously run off the road near the exit ramp and crashed in the ravine. He was on foot when he was hit. Dodson died at the scene. The driver of the car is cooperating with that investigation. A new amendment may be coming to the Missouri Constitution. Amendment 5 would put control of the Missouri National Guard within the state's executive branch. KOAM Shagun Bamidele has more.
The Missouri's National Guard is currently part of the Missouri Department of Public Safety. The proposed amendment will create a Missouri's Department of the National Guard.
This allows the governor to exercise direct control over the National Guard, which is what it's supposed to be. Right now, he would have to exercise it through the head of the Public Safety Department, then to get to the National Guard.
But not all voters are convinced a change is necessary.
I'm trying to think of what the advantages would be of being able to have direct access to National Guard and if there's potential to abuse that, and I really don't know either way.
I definitely don't have a strong opinion because I haven't thought about this before, but on first glance it sounds fine because sometimes I can see the use of it. For example, I'm not from around here, but from what I've seen with Joplin, it definitely would have been nice to have a quicker response time. Seems like it really destroyed the city, at least temporarily, But yeah, I don't have too much to say on it because I haven't really thought about this.
White believes the change makes sense and will allow the governor to quickly respond to emergencies.
Directly, the governor controls the Guard, and it makes a lot more sense for the governor to have direct input from the adjutant general to have direct order, nobody in between the adjutant general in charge of the state's military.
In Joplin, Shogun Bamdele, KOAM News.
That proposal will appear on Missouri's November 8th ballot. The Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce held a ribbon cutting for their own facility. It took 9 months and a little more than $300,000 to renovate the Chamber of Commerce. United Way, Explore Crawford County, and the Chamber all share the building. Blake Benson says he encourages the community to stop by and see it.
This is their first stop when they come to the community, whether they're a new resident, a visitor, or maybe an economic development prospect looking to make a big investment in our community. We wanted this facility to give the kind of first impression that this community deserves.
The Chamber of Commerce is at 117 West 4th Street. The Allen County Regional Hospital in Iola, Kansas is celebrating their newest addition. The hospital hosted a ribbon cutting and open house for the new specialty clinic, which offers specialists in areas including general surgery and podiatry. Visitors were also able to get a tour of the newly remodeled space.
Well, I think that the biggest benefit of this clinic is the opportunity that's going to give the community to get care close to home, plus the growth opportunity that it's going to give us as an organization to be able to expand our services and treat our patients here at home.
The clinic offers 10 specialty options. Police say a gunman broke into a St. Louis high school this morning. The shooter fatally shot a woman and teenage girl and injured 6 others before police shot and killed him. Reporter Charles Watson has the latest.
A mother hugging her children at a St. Louis high school after a shooter opened fire on campus Monday.
Officers arrived within a couple minutes of the call. They talked to some of the kids who told them that there was a shooter armed with a long gun.
The first shots fired just after 9 a.m. at Central Visual and Performing Arts High School. Students sought safety as quickly as they could, some barricading themselves in classrooms, others running out of the building.
One of them said it was a student who was doing the shooting. So we was like, they behind us, so we just ran real fast and came here. And then we was all just crying and shooken up about it.
Police say the shooter first caught security guards' attention when he tried to enter a locked school building. It's not clear how he got inside. Officers ultimately caught up to him.
Upon hearing gunfire, they ran to that gunfire, located the shooter, and engaged that shooter in exchange of gunfire. The suspect was struck and transported from this location, and that suspect has since been pronounced deceased.
The school setting up several locations where parents could pick up their kids. Students and staff left feeling very shaken up after such a traumatic event, in disbelief that it could happen at their school.
I still feel like I'm real scared still to come, and I'm a freshman, so I never experienced this before at all.
There's still no word on a motive for the shooting. In Atlanta, Charles Watson, Fox News.
KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time now to honor a U.S. Army veteran. Waldo Hattler received a Medal of Honor for his service during World War I. He swam across a river in France on a mission to determine how many German troops were stationed on the other side. Hattler was born in Bolivar, Missouri, and later lived in Neosho, and we are proud to salute Sergeant Waldo Hattler, a four-state hero. Doug is next with a complete look at the forecast, and later in sports, we're going to hear from the Pitt State Gorillas after their victory this weekend against Missouri Western to move to 8-0 on the season.
Well, of course, we got the rain for us today. Periods of showers, even a few thunderstorms across the region. Very widespread, something we greatly needed. And it looks like we'll get a little bit more as we go through the overnight hours for us tonight. Looking outside right now, here is Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, of course, just outside of Seneca, Missouri. A little bit of a break in the rain, but we're going to get a little bit more pushing in as we go through the overnight hours for us tonight. Look at the bands, showers, even a few thunderstorms earlier this afternoon. And this wave is now pushing off toward the east. You can actually see the heaviest rain now really from about Stockton Lake, Mount Vernon, Monette, down toward Cassville, but on the Kansas and the Oklahoma side, we've been drying out just a bit. And this is going to be our weather for the next few hours And then we're going to tap into this next band. This is the upper level low, which is going to rotate in later on tonight. Still a few hours away, but after midnight, it will start to push right on into the region. Rainfall amount so far, it's hard to see, but most of us kind of in that 1 to 3 inch category, especially in southwestern Missouri, all the way down into northwestern parts of Arkansas. A little bit less once you get into our western counties, but definitely something we greatly needed. Outside right now, 7th range line, currently sitting at 55. Northerly winds at about 10. Humidity is high, sitting at about 93%. Into the morning hours, more rain as we get after midnight, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Overnight low of 48, and then we'll start to see things kind of getting a little bit better as we go into tomorrow afternoon. Look at this storm system stretching from Minnesota all the way down into parts of Texas, and then of course you can see the upper level low, which is spinning, and this is going to pass right on top of us just to the south as we get into the overnight hours tonight and into tomorrow morning. So let's go through time. We're going to stop 1 a.m. Showers, maybe an embedded little thunder shower, spreading back in. After midnight, heaviest looks to be along and south of the I-44 corridor. Here's 5 a.m. We get this first little batch. Second batch rotates in 9, 10, 11 a.m., then starts to push on out of here. Now, if you live in our northwestern counties, you're not going to see much from this secondary batch that is going to rotate through late tonight into tomorrow morning. Then a little bit of sunshine late in the day, but look at our temps. We're only sitting into the mid-50s for highs. So look at our rain chances. They spike up after midnight into the morning hours, which will take a little bit more rain. Again, heaviest along and south of I-44, maybe another ½ an inch, upwards to an inch in spots, lesser amounts in our northwestern counties. 50 in the morning, 48 by noon. We actually go down, but once we get a little bit of sunshine, we pop back up as we head into the afternoon hours, which will be nice. All right, so rain in the morning. We clear out tomorrow night, 64 on Wednesday, 66 on Thursday. There is a weak system that kind of passes by to our south as we head into the weekend. We'll be on the northern edge, but may give us a few light little showers.
We'll take what we can get, but boy, it was nice to get a good soaking today.
Yeah, we needed it bad.
Thanks, Doug. Coming up, the final push before the midterms.
I'm Lauren Blanchard in Washington with a closer look at the midterm elections and what voters are feeling just 2 weeks away from Election Day.
Ukraine, the U.S., and several allies are rejecting Russia's claims that Ukraine is getting ready to use a dirty bomb on its own territory. Russia's defense minister made this claim in a series of calls with U.S., British, French, and Turkish defense officials. But a National Safety Council spokesperson says this is Russia's attempt to escalate the war. The Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky says it's Moscow that's planning to use the dirty bomb. Dirty bomb uses explosives and spreads radiological materials through the air to contaminate the area. Rishi Sunak has won the race to be leader of the Conservative Party and will become Britain's next Prime Minister, the third this year. Former Treasury chief will replace Liz Truss, who resigned last week. Sunak's only rival conceded and withdrew earlier today. Sunak now becomes Britain's youngest prime minister in more than a century. President Biden is hoping his speech to DNC staff in Washington can help energize his party with just 2 weeks until the midterm elections. For both parties, the message is go vote. Reporter Lauren Blanchard is in Washington with more.
If we get people out to vote, we win.
Focused on the finish line, President Biden rallying supporters at the Democratic National Committee in D.C.
So far, we're running against the tide and we're beating the tide. But we just have 15 days until one of the most important elections in our lifetime.
Early voting is underway in many states and ballots are in the mail. According to data from the United States Election Project, more than 7.5 million have already voted. They found California and Florida had the highest number of returned mail-in ballots, and in Georgia, they have already had 20% more early voters than at this point in 2020.
Just go vote. Get Raphael Warnock out. Okay. Go vote.
An NBC News poll found that 70% of registered voters have a very high interest in this cycle's election. The poll found an almost even split on which party voters preferred to run Congress. And the top two issues were the economy and jobs and threats to democracy.
you can feel it changing because people get it. They know the Democrats are responsible for this mess, and they're going to vote for Republicans. And I think it could be a big night for us on November 8th.
The NBC poll also found voters are extremely polarized. 80% of both Republicans and Democrats believe their political opposition's policies will destroy America if not stopped. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Still ahead, a look at one of the pandemic's many effects.
2 years after COVID shut down classrooms coast to coast, we're getting a better idea on the kind of impact the virus had on education. I'm Mark Meredith in Washington. We'll take a closer look coming up.
A drug that's commonly used for lowering cholesterol might also be effective against COVID-19. A study at the University of Central Florida tracked about 39,000 COVID patients. It found those using statins had a 37% lower risk of dying from the virus. Students across the U.S. saw a decline in their reading and math scores following the COVID-19 pandemic. Education experts say the results of a new government report are unacceptable. Reporter Mark Meredith has more.
A new government report shows how big of an impact the pandemic is having on the country's classrooms. The National Center for Education Statistics reports since coronavirus disrupted education, math and reading scores have dropped dramatically for both elementary and middle school students.
This should be a call to arms. We should put aside the hyperpartisanship that dominates life in Washington and realize that this really is important.
About 450,000 students from some 10,000 schools participated in this year's exams. Reading scores fell 3 points in both grade levels. In math, 8th grade scores saw their biggest decrease ever. The report's authors say the decline is not necessarily tied to remote learning, but they add the technology does pose its challenges.
Teachers are used to having full control of the entire environment, and so we went into that digital space. We mimicked that identically, a teacher having full control of the entire environment, but it's a little bit different.
Experts say the study examined students from a variety of backgrounds, but also found scores fell more sharply among students who were struggling even before the pandemic. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona says it's not too late to address the problem. He's calling on states to use funds from the American Rescue Plan to invest in additional learning programs.
We need to make sure we're utilizing the funds for academic recovery, and we need to communicate with our families how we're using the dollars.
But education experts say teacher shortages and reduced class offerings could also impact those same recovery efforts. In Washington, Mark Meredith, Fox News.
Up next, going to learn the story of this Colorado home smothered by tumbleweeds. So take a look at this. It's what the weekend's high winds left at a home in Security, Colorado, near Colorado Springs. The homeowner woke up to find his home buried in tumbleweeds. His home was the talk of the neighborhood, with neighbors showing up to gawk and take pictures driving through the pile. Most importantly, some of them showed up with their rakes to offer to help. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports coming your way. The Parsons, Kansas Police Department explains how and why it's stepping up patrols at night. Plus, how a Pitt State student group is raising awareness of domestic violence. The city of Parsons, Kansas has stepped up their nighttime enforcement. The city has seen an increase with reported calls of suspicious persons and activity at night. KOAM's Yana Hautala has more.
Overnight calls for suspicious activity have increased in Parsons, Kansas. Even while short-staffed, the Parsons PD is proactive, adding more officers on the night shift.
It's already turned in some real benefits. Just recently we had a very significant drug arrest of a well-known habitual interstate felon who was armed and had a significant load of narcotics on him in the middle of the night.
Chief Robert Spinks says making traffic stops can easily get criminals like this caught.
Going to necessarily prevent or arrest every criminal, but if we can make it uncomfortable for criminals to do their business here in our community, well, some of those are going to go away.
Chief Spinks and his officers emphasize communication between residents and police to keep the city safe.
The people that are out at night doing crimes are usually at home during the day sleeping, or some even have jobs they go to. So, and they take advantage of the nighttime because they don't think people pay attention at night.
We took a ride with Officer Sherry McQuire to find out what she's seeing on the streets. McQuire says the number of people riding bicycles stealing from properties is on the rise. And if you see something, say something.
They will be arrested, and then the owner of the property can identify it. And once they identify it, it can be photographed and then released back to them so it doesn't have to go into evidence.
Chief Spinks says there is a high level of poverty and people who have mental issues in Parsons, which can lead to increased criminal activity.
People who are poor or economically disadvantaged are necessarily, bad in any way, but they're in a position that puts them, in contact with, other folks that might be bad.
With the community support and a bigger presence on the streets, the Parsons PD hopes to lower crime rates in the city.
Officials say the department is currently short-staffed, with officers working 12-hour shifts. They're working to hire and train more employees. A Pitt State student group is partnering with campus police to raise awareness about domestic violence. The group, Students for Violence Prevention, gave others a chance to cover a campus police cruiser in sticky notes. Police were able to use the sticky notes to ask questions about domestic violence that'll be answered at a panel discussion on Wednesday.
I hope they know that they are heard, that we do want to know what they want to know. We want them to be able to ask questions and have them get the information that they need to hopefully prevent it in the future.
That panel is going to meet Wednesday from 4 p.m. to 5:30 at the Overman Student Center. Folks in Grove, Oklahoma got a chance to be some of the first people to watch a new movie featuring a local actress. The movie is called Mind Reader. It takes place in the 1970s and is about a man who performs a mind-reading act and arouses the anger of the local Magicians Association. One of the actors is from Carthage and was at the premiere.
Yeah, so I live in Carthage, Missouri, which is phenomenal that I get to live in my small town USA and I get to do what I love doing. Luckily with the internet being what it is, I get to travel to different places and participate in different movies and share that with the community. So
that movie currently is appearing only privately in theaters. Recycling plastics is a losing battle. That's the conclusion of a new report from Greenpeace USA. The environmental group says most plastics simply cannot be recycled. The report found U.S. households generated about 51 million tons of plastic waste last year, but only 2.4 million tons was recycled. Researchers say several issues contribute to the problem. Plastic waste is hard to collect and recycle. It's harmful to the environment since some plastics contain toxic materials, and recycling is costly. If you have dry shampoo, you might need to throw it out. A number of brands, including Dove, Nexus, Suave, Tigi, and Tresemme, have been recalled because of potentially elevated levels of a chemical called benzene, which can cause cancer. Unilever just issued a voluntary recall for a long list of products. Unilever hasn't gotten reports of any problems from the products, but the company is recalling them out of a, quote, abundance of caution. As TikTok looks to expand its business into the e-commerce space, there remains growing concern over national security and user safety. Reporter Grady Trimble has more.
TikTok claims it only uses your general location for targeted ads, but new reporting from Forbes indicates the app was planning to pinpoint specific locations of American users. The concern is that the Chinese parent company of TikTok, ByteDance, would use that data and other data it collects on users for nefarious purposes.
Anybody using TikTok is generating quite a lot of information about their preferences. And while it might seem like their preferences for inane things, that information can be enormously useful if it's available in very large scale, which of course it is.
For its part, TikTok denied Forbes reporting about location tracking, but Forbes claims TikTok wouldn't address whether the app was using data to surveil American politicians, public figures, journalists, and others. This latest revelation only adds to the scrutiny of the social media app and parent company ByteDance. That, of course, all started back in 2020 when former President Trump threatened to ban TikTok because of its ties to China. Still, at a congressional hearing last month, TikTok's COO says it's not doing Beijing's dirty work. There are other concerns about how the app is being used in the U.S., though. The video you're seeing right now shows it being used to recruit Americans to drive migrants across the southern border. And all of this comes as new Pew Research found that Americans are increasingly regularly getting their news from TikTok. About 10% say they get their news on a regular basis from the social media app. TikTok also planning to expand beyond social media, potentially into e-commerce and music streaming. In Chicago, Grady Trimble, Fox Business.
A bit later, what a new study shows about how negative campaign ads affect how people vote.
Well, of course, showers, even a few thunderstorms for us today. Widespread moderate to heavy amounts of rain, which we greatly needed across the region. And we even have some more rain, which is going to head toward us a little bit later on tonight. Nice shot, Indigo Sky Casino and Resort just outside of Seneca, Missouri. And you can see the rain rotating through over the past 12 hours. It started kind of mid-morning on the Kansas and Oklahoma side and worked off toward the east all day long. Now we are drying out a bit. We're in between batches on the Kansas and Oklahoma side and extreme southwestern Missouri into northwestern Arkansas. So all the heavy rain almost out of the viewing area, but you can see it starting to creep back in toward the south and to the west. This is our next batch of showers. Even a few random thunder showers are going to roll in, especially after midnight for us tonight. So the next few hours, pretty calm. And then rain's going to work back in. Heaviest southwestern Missouri and then back through northeastern parts of Oklahoma. Most of this is representing upwards of 2, maybe 3 inches of rain, a little bit less once you get out into our northwestern counties. But at least everybody got some rain out of this storm system. Roads are still wet. 7th and range line 55. Northerly winds at about 10. Humidity, of course, is high at 93%. Over the next few hours, we kind of drop back near 50. Rain increases again through the morning hours. Overnight low of 48 degrees a little bit later on tonight as this storm system, our first bigger storm system we have seen of the fall season, kind of wraps up. So here's batch number 1 and then the upper level low, which is rotating right on top of us just south late tonight into tomorrow morning with our second batch of rain. Now, our far northwestern counties, you're just going to get clipped. Most of this rain is going to be coming through the heart of the viewing area into our southern counties. But here's 5 a.m. You can see the showers, maybe an embedded thunderstorm, kind of working through. We got another batch mid-morning, heaviest on the Missouri side through Arkansas, also northeastern parts of Oklahoma. Look at our temps, upper 40s. Once the rain gets out of here, by about the noon hour, we'll get a little bit of sunshine, so that's going to help our temperatures warm up just a bit, but it's going to be chilly. High temps only into the mid-50s. Rain chances low next few hours, then they pop up through the morning hours until about noon, and then they'll start to tank off during the afternoon. Additional rainfall, heaviest in the blue, kind of a quarter, half an inch, maybe some areas upwards to half an inch or an inch of rain, which would be good. So rain through the morning, a little bit of sunshine late in the day, but look at our high temp, only upwards to 55 for a high tomorrow. Tomorrow night, backing down into the upper 30s. 64 on Wednesday, 66 on Thursday. A few random showers as we head into the weekend, but Halloween looks great. 66, 75 on Tuesday. Rain chances again late next week.
Sounds like trick-or-treating weather come Monday.
I know, at least it's going to be dry, which is good.
All right. That sounds good. Thanks, Doc. Coming up in sports, Webb City Volleyball earns a spot in the district championship game. Plus, the Riverton Rams are headed to state. We're going to hear from the team next.
The Riverton Rams are sub-state champions and will compete for the state title for the 3rd year in a row. The Rams are 37-2 this season and have earned the 2 seed for this weekend's state tournament. Riverton is both experienced and motivated. Last year at state, the Rams season came to an end after day 1, and they've been working hard for months to have another shot at the title.
Our serve receive has been solid. Defensively, we've really picked things up, and we're starting to make some plays that maybe we didn't make early in the year. Communication has gotten better. They just gelled as a unit. We do have a lot of our returners back. I think you just see a really focused, intense group of kids that we were so close last year to getting into that second day of state, and I think they're really on a mission.
Over in Missouri today is the Class 4 District 6 semifinals. Webb City and Carl Junction both won their matches in straight sets. So it's the Cardinals and the Bulldogs in the final. The title game is tomorrow at 6 p.m. Then in Class 2 District 11, 1-seeded Lamar and 2-seeded Diamond meet in the championship today. Great match. Diamond pulls out the 5-set win. The Wildcats earn a spot in the state tournament for the second straight year. Fort Scott closed out the regular season with a statement win on Friday. The Tigers' 50-44 win over Field Kinley in double overtime is voted the performance of the week. The Tigers trailed by as much as 16 points on Friday and still pulled off the comeback win. Lennox Van connected with Ty Marbury late in the fourth to tie the game and force overtime. Later, he found Colton Rogers for the game-winning touchdown. Van finished with 159 rushing yards and 6 total touchdowns. Fort Scott ends the regular season with a 2-6 record. They'll face undefeated Atchison in the first round of the playoffs. The Pitt State Gorillas are a perfect 8-0 with 3 regular season games to go. They remain at number 5 in this week's national rankings and continue to sit at the top of the conference standings. As the postseason nears, the Gorillas are trying to focus on one game at a time. So that means preparing for this Saturday's road game against Central Oklahoma.
This team is, again, very mature, and they understand that this has been a good process for us, remaining focused on the moment that we're in. Yeah, the target grows and all of that, and teams are going to get up to play us to try to knock you off, but that doesn't change who we are. It doesn't change our standard.
That's a look at sports. We'll be right back.
As political campaigns across the country ramp up last-minute efforts to secure enough votes come November 8th, political analysts are predicting large numbers of people will turn out. Reporter Richard Jordan has the latest on that, plus a look at what tactics could backfire and cause people not to cast a ballot.
With midterm elections right around the corner, a new Associated Press NORC poll finds 71% of voters believe the future of the country is at stake this November, regardless of their political affiliation.
Majorities of Republicans and Democrats are deeply dissatisfied with the way things are going in the country and pessimistic about the state of politics. Despite that, the poll shows us that voters are motivated to turn out this year. More than 8 in 10 registered voters say it is extremely or very important to them to cast a ballot in this year's elections.
The data suggests the potential for high voter turnout next month. But just like any poll, analysts say the findings are never an exact prediction of the end results. Instead, polls are better for gauging voter attitude on important issues, which could play a role in how they vote.
It's important to have a healthy level of skepticism about polls that are conducted before the election. Who is actually going to go and vote on election day is something that a pollster cannot tell you ahead of time. That's probably one of the big reasons for polls being a little bit off in recent elections.
Meanwhile, according to Professor Marjorie Hershey of Indiana University, exposure to negative political ads near the end of a campaign can actually weaken voter turnout.
Conflict is inevitable about politics, but it's also very disconcerting. If they see a lot of attacks against that person they've decided to vote for, one of the things that is, at least in part, likely to happen is that they'll decide, oh, I can't really figure out whether this attack is warranted or not, so maybe I'll just forget the election.
Richard Jordan, Fox News.
Coming up, going to learn about the new movies and TV shows available to watch at home this week. Beloved comedic actor Leslie Jordan has died. TMZ reports the actor, known for his roles in such shows as Will and Grace and Call Me Kat, suffered what's believed to be a medical emergency, crashed his vehicle into the side of a building in Hollywood this morning. Jordan won an Emmy for his Will and Grace role in 2006 for playing actress Megan Mullaley's rival, Beverly Leslie. Jordan was 67 years old. DVD, digital, and music releases this week include a sci-fi alien horror thriller, a house rental nightmare, a legendary singer-songwriter, and more. Here's Fox's Ashley Dvorkin with the list of new releases.
What's a bad miracle?
Jordan Peele's sci-fi horror blockbuster Nope tops this week's list of what's new in home entertainment. Starring Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, and Steven Yeun, the film centers on a horse trainer and his sister facing off with a mysterious alien at their California ranch. Georgina Campbell, Justin Long, and Bill Skarsgård discover something sinister in the house rental horror film Barbarian.
I don't want the bank's money.
The true story drama Breaking features John Boyega as a Marine veteran who holds a bank hostage after being denied veterans' benefits. Penelope Cruz and Antonio Banderas star in the Spanish-language comedy Official Competition, about a billionaire entrepreneur who decides to create an iconic movie.
I want to go home.
A young woman invited to a lavish wedding in the English countryside discovers her family's dark and sinister secrets in the horror thriller The Invitation.
Hitchhiking.
The Columbia Classics 4K Ultra HD Collection Volume 3 features 6 landmark movies, including It Happened One Night, From Here to Eternity, and As Good as It Gets.
I have you.
Small screen favorites to own, Season 3 of Netflix's crime drama You, as well as the 3rd season of the HBO Max DC superhero drama Titans. Also, all 7 seasons of Showtime's Emmy Award-winning drama Raid Donovan is available on a 29-disc box set collection.
Christmas dread.
And music fans can get into the holiday spirit with A Neil Diamond Christmas, a compilation featuring the greatest songs from the legendary singer's 4 best-selling Christmas albums. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
That's our time for tonight. Thanks for joining us. We're going to leave you with video of guinea pigs at the Smithsonian National Zoo enjoying some veggies and snow. Let's make it a great tomorrow.